1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. So this is the podcast where my co-hosts and I get together at a gracious podcast host. This week we are back at Higher Gravity Summit Park.
It's good to be home.
Good to be home. And so what we do is we recap all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from the previous week. Now, hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other podcasts, and so far so good.
Yep, we're on a roll.
We are on a roll. My name is Marco. I am a taproom manager here locally, and that voice you heard belongs to the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I am Julia. I drink all the craft beers here in Cincinnati, and it is Beervent season. We are 6 days in as of the time that we're recording this, and hopefully you have been following our social media. I'm posting all of my longer posts, the funny posts that I do about them on our Facebook page, and then on our Twitter and Instagram, I'm just doing the little quick, hey, this is what was in the box for today. So hopefully you're following along with that. Hopefully you're having fun with those. I know that I'm having a blast, as I do every year with writing them. It's great.
They are great, and that has been a lot of fun. Also, not so fun, I'm just going to take a moment to say the thoughts and opinions of this particular co-host do not reflect any of the entities that they might not represent.
And I double that.
And, they're podcasting, craft beer podcasting. It's great. It's fun. We are the number one craft beer podcast that talks about Cincinnati-based craft beer podcast.
It's true.
Thank you to all of you who listen for helping us get to that number one spot. But we also wouldn't be a great craft beer podcast if we didn't have beverages.
Absolutely.
Let me just put it that way.
Yes. We will definitely put it as beverages for this particular episode.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a craft beer in your glass, but that's all right. You have a crafted beverage in your glass.
Correct. That's what I have. And for anybody who has been with us for a while, and thank you for your listenership if you've been with us for a while. If this is your first time along, I'll explain that. And thank you, by the way, for coming along to begin this journey with us. Julia, to drinking.
I am drinking Defroster. It is Grainworks Winter Warmer. And it's pretty tasty. I'm enjoying it.
So it's winterish and warmish?
It is very winterish. It is very warmish. It is not quite wintry outside.
It's ugly. It's ugly. What it is.
Yeah, it's rainy ugly. But you know what? The temperature's not terrible, so I'm not going to complain about it. It could be icy, snowy, slick. It's not. It's just rainy and just kind of meh.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it for December. How about you? What is the amazingly crafted beverage that Annie made you?
Yeah, Annie went ahead and poured me a Teremana Reposado.
Excellent.
I do that every now and then on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Shout out to The Rock for owning Teremana Reposado.
Well, what's interesting is Tuesdays are Margarita Tuesdays here at Higher Gravity Summit Park. And I used to get margaritas pretty regularly on Tuesdays. I'm trying to be a little more conscientious. And if I don't get one in the very beginning, I try not to drink kind of heavy hitter like that later on in the evening. But I do definitely want to get back to them. That's kind of a cocktail. One of the podcasts we're going to talk about talks about cocktails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To me, a margarita tends to be more of a spring, summer, like a warmer weather cocktail. So when it starts getting a little colder, it's just not as appealing to me as it is other times of the year. But they make delicious ones here at Higher Gravity, so be sure to get you one if you're up here. We have some kind of news about the podcast. I don't know if you want to talk about that in the beginning or if you want to make people wait until the end to bring up some newness happening to our world.
We don't have a lot of podcasts to cover. Let's go ahead and talk about it right up front. Let's do it. Do you have an intro, a sounder to introduce what we have new?
You say this like I plan these things. I'm just going off the cuff.
Right. Well, hit a button, Julia. See what happens.
I never think to do this.
Ooh. And Julia's making something happen. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are listening, Julia has moved some sliders on the mixing board and is going through her phone. And so there is definitely something Julia's searching for.
Yes.
And I can't wait. I think something has sparked some sort of recognition or recollection of something.
All right, so we have some news, and let's see if I can make this work. Oh my God. Our Patreon is live.
Whoa!
We have a Patreon account at patreon.com/truthbeerpod, just like all of our social media platforms. We have 3 tiers currently. We have just the tips, if you just want to give us a couple bucks for helping us tip the amazing people that pour our drinks for us week in and week out.
Excellent.
We have Buy Us a Pint, which is money to, we say buy us a pint, or We've Had Beers, which is buying us 2 pints, and each of those costs include tips as well. Full transparency, we are going to try to use the money for maybe an Adobe subscription for video editing, because that is something that we want to do. Or if not that, like a better video editing software and even podcast editing software, audio editing, than what we're currently using, which is a free trial application that I have to keep saying, oh no, extend my free trial, and then I download another copy and give them another made-up email address, and it works. But
I didn't know that was the secret behind that, Julia.
Yes, you just make up different email addresses, and yes.
Do we own any of those domains?
Well, it's like you can sign up for free Gmail accounts, Yahoo accounts, all that, and you just kind of, I don't know, just set up one, click the activate link, and you never look at it again. But no, we'd like to try to use the money for just kind of improving the equipment and the software that we're using to make the content that we want to give to you guys.
Right.
We do have our first bit of paid Patreon content is the very first recording Marco and I ever did. So it is us doing a partial episode, but also talking about different segments that we may want, or that we may have wanted to have in Truth Beer Pod before it became what you're now hearing. So,
and that was fun for me to listen to, and thank you for sending that to me. Man, what a trip down memory lane there.
It was
really
my
cool. God.
It was really cool to listen to again. So that's out there. I do have a couple of other of our test episodes that I think would be awesome for Patreon content as well.
Some testies.
So if you're interested, got some testies. We always have testies as part of Truth Beer Pod.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, patreon.com/truthbeerpod. I don't know. If anyone has any suggestions on pricing tiers, anything like that, please let us know. I'll throw this in now at Truth Beer Pod everywhere, and including YouTube. All of our episodes go up on YouTube. We're at Truth Beer Pod on YouTube as well, and our second video piece of video content is out on YouTube as well. So 2 videos.
Awesome.
We're trying.
Yeah,
we're
that's
doing
great.
what we can.
This is
we're
awesome.
trying, and hopefully you guys are enjoying what we are attempting to put out there for you. But yeah, that's kind of our big Truth Beer Pod news. Patreon's live. There's actual stuff, so Josh can stop giving me crap about, well, I give you money every month and I don't get anything for it. And this is not my Josh. This is, Shift Beer's Josh.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Jangle.
So now, if you want to continue to give us money, you can actually get something extra for it. And we're playing around with other stuff. I mean, maybe like some Patreon merch will be in the pipeline. I have no idea. Mark is actually wearing a pretty fancy looking hat right now that we're testing. That may or may not go on social
hat.
media.
We'll another testy.
All the testies.
All the testies. I mean, I like it. it. It's good.
Cool.
It's cool.
All right. So, podcast recap, because that is what we are actually here to do. Well,
along with drink.
I was just going to say, we're here to drink, but we're also here to talk about podcasts.
Chewing some ice in the mic.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
Teremana Reposado.
That's fantastic.
No one said we were professionals.
No, and no one ever will. No one will ever make that mistake.
No, don't make that mistake.
We have 2 podcasts to recap that made our cutoff. Shout out to Craft Parenting Podcast. We did see that you put out an episode today, but I did not have time during my workday to listen.
Well, they know how it goes.
Sure, but I just, for people that are like,
they know it didn't make the cutoff.
Right, so that one will be recapped next week.
They also didn't mention us in the podcast.
Yeah, no, anyways. just I mean, not like, it was about Beervent, and, We'll see. We'll talk about it next week.
We will. We'll talk about it next week.
This week we have all Gnome. We have 2 Gnome episodes. We have Drinking with the Gnome, which was recorded live at Chris Kindle Market down in front of Moorline Lager House, and we have
At the park there, right?
At the park there. The what do you call it? How do you say
It's
that?
very tough.
Yes.
It's very tough. I mean, I looked at the word and it just shit in my lap is the way that I mentioned it in a 0.5 episode.
Yeah.
Because of the way.
Schmidlap.
Look, stop me when I lie. Look at the name of that park and tell me it doesn't look like shit in my lap.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there's a different way to pronounce it that won't get censored. That's all.
Okay.
All right. And then an episode of Cincy Brewcast where I'm just going to call it another BBB episode because it was all about things that started with the letter B.
Love things that start with the letter B, by the way.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Bobcats, biscuits, beer, booze, and bunks.
Boobies.
Boobies. I was waiting to see which one of us said it first.
Banana
All right,
hammocks.
Manscaped.com. What do you say we start with Drinking with the Gnome, because that was the shorter of the 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And then we will wrap things up with, I'm doing it, the Cincinnati Brewcast.
There we go. Cheers.
Cheers. That was such a better cheers than our Sonder episode.
Nobody
Cheers.
knew. Nobody knew the difference.
Nobody knew.
Only you and I and our producer knew how we just kept
It was
bumping thumbs when we were trying to cheers with 2 little
problem
taster
was,
glasses.
I was going to say the problem was you had a pint glass and I had a little taster, and it just did not work. You could hear us laughing while we were trying to do it, and people were probably like, "What the hell's happening?"
Yeah, it just was a
wasn't.
thud. It wasn't even thudding. It was just like nothing.
Peek
But anyway,
behind the curtain. Maybe that should have been part of some more Patreon content. Who knows?
could have been.
Oh well. Anyway, Drinking with the Gnome, winter cocktails. This is the first of 4 or 5 episodes he's going to be doing down at Chris Kindle Market every Thursday. He's going to be live streaming these episodes down there. So if you're in the area, sometime between 6 and 9ish, I guess, you might see him and a guest running around doing podcast stuff. So definitely check it out. Heckle the hell out of him if you see him. It'll be great. It's a great time. Let's see. Who was all in the igloo for this episode?
There was
the gnome.
The gnome.
Mm-hmm. And then there
And
was Taylor from Moorline Lager House.
Taylor from Moorline Lager
Who,
House.
she's awesome.
Dippa Josh.
The best Josh in the whole world.
And then you.
And then me. Yeah. He had asked, hey, do you guys want to do an episode, split up, do episodes, whatever, for this? And Mark and I both said, sure. So you will get Marco's amazing, sultry, rich voice on this coming episode.
Hopefully, if I make it there all right.
You'll be fine. You made it to the west side. You can make it downtown. I have faith in you.
Whew.
Let's see. One of the things I loved about Gnome's kind of sort of recap or intro to the episode was calling the igloo the Gnome-dome. That was fantastic. I
Gnome-dome.
started laughing. I'm like, the Gnome-dome is perfect. But that means if he wants to
Promo code
continue...
Gnome at manscaped.com.
And polish your gnome. Your dome. Oh, good God. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Jesus. These episodes have to stay in igloos now. Otherwise, they won't be domes. And so the Gnome-dome just won't make sense anymore. It was cold when we recorded. I don't know if you heard his teeth chattering while talking, but it was like
It was a cold day.
It was low 30s. The igloo. So this is a peek behind the curtain of what you did not see if you watched either the video portion of this episode or just listened to it. I mean, it's like a vinyl igloo. It's not like
right.
It's not insulated. They have like the vented windows because they're required to have some type of ventilation. They have a single like little space heater thing that looks like a mini tiny like fake fireplace. Really wasn't cranking out much heat, and when Greg from Moorline stopped in for like 2 minutes at the very end, he came in from outside and he was like, "Man, it feels really good in here compared to outside." And Gnome and I just kind of looked at each other like, "It's fucking freezing in here still." And Greg was like, "Yeah, when there are like 10 people in here, it gets really, really warm. But when there are only like a handful of people in here, I guess it doesn't get as warm." And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how this stuff works.
Yeah.
But
science,
yeah. It's very good that Gnome had like his own auxiliary lights because the only light in the place was a single like like a rave strobe light. It was like it just like softly changed colors. I turned it on because
awesome.
I'm like, is this going to be a light for us to use? And it was hilarious. It was as Gnome puts it in almost everything he does. It was chaos. It fit perfectly, and it was a great time. It was chilly. It was chilly to me. It was not cold, but then again, I also run around in the woods in the middle of the night for 6.5 miles, even if it's like -5 degrees outside. So cold to me, I may not be the best person to call that out. But yeah, teeth chattering the whole time. Like I think his hands started turning purple. I'm like, do you have gloves? No, because if I have gloves, I can't hit the buttons right. I'm like, well, they make those fingerless
not
gloves.
Not only the buttons and the knobs on the
knobs.
P4 are so small. They're they're like real small. It's like you just have to tweak them. Like
the hand motions that Marco and I are both making for the tweaking of the knobs. I wish I had the camera set up so that. Well, no, it's probably good that we don't because we...
Or not. Maybe we get some more Patreon
hey,
supporters.
That'll be our OnlyFans content.
That's it.
Marco and I twisting the knobs. Good freaking Lord. Oh, my God. This is going great. So Taylor from Moorline, she brought us 3 of the cocktails that they sell at Christkindle Market, which she verified if you buy them at Christkindle Market, you can carry them through the entire Dora area that is the Banks and Smale Park. You don't have to stay to the confines of Christkindle Market.
That's great.
We had the Drunken Rudolph, which was a hot chocolate-based cocktail. Harvest Apple, which, guess what that's kind of a cocktail based off of. Nice apple cider. And then Under the Mistletoe, which was kind of a cranberry, piney kind of cocktail, which was freaking delicious. The Harvest Apple and Under the Mistletoe were both iced cocktails, but I felt like as cold as it was, you didn't need the ice in them. And that did kind of water them down a bit because we weren't drinking them as soon as she brought them out. But absolutely delicious. It was, well worth going down there to try those because I don't know when I would have tried those type of cocktails outside of just going down there. Some good questions were asked. What makes a winter cocktail? I had not prepared, so I kind of felt put on the spot. I'm just very glad he didn't have any trivia music playing. Otherwise, I would have run out of the igloo. I would have started sweating. The sweat would have frozen to my brow, and then I would have ran out of the igloo crying. Luckily, that didn't happen.
He didn't ask you any Cincinnati beer trivia while you were in there?
Let me ask you some trivia about Cincinnati, Cincinnati spirits, and I would have just died right there on the live stream. It would have been very awkward for all of us. Something about a good part of the conversation was about how do you introduce a new cocktail to your family or your own personal holiday tradition. We brought up, what Josh and I like to do with. Well, I don't know if we like to do it. We just do it with Jaeger the first time it snows. So how do you start to introduce more things like that into your holiday traditions? And then we talked about, just kind of rating the cocktails, which ones we thought were the best and which one. They were all great. There was no worse, but which one was the top of our list. So
that was fun. And honestly, it was a great listen. It was about 28 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It wasn't
not super long.
If you're into podcasts or actually, it was video content.
Yeah,
so
it's out on
you can
the internets.
Put that up while you're getting your dinner together, or whether you're folding clothes after they come out hot and fresh out of the dryer or whatever. You can put that on and enjoy that content. As far as introducing new drinks or cocktails or some of that stuff, like for family traditions, so to speak, I think a lot of that stuff kind of happens organically, where you are going to a Friendsgiving or you're going to a family get-together, and you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to, instead of bringing a Jell-O mold, I'm gonna bring what I need to make this sort of drink, or I'm gonna bring this, and then you take it, and a couple of people like it. Hopefully, a couple think it's cool and sort of.
It becomes a thing,
and then it becomes a thing, and then 10 years, 12 years later, everybody wants to make sure you're bringing the whatever.
Right. Do traditions ever really start with, I'm going to start a tradition by, well, I guess sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do. But
I mean, Dark Charge Day started with, hey, we're going to have Dark Charge Day. But it
Very
wouldn't keep
true,
going if it didn't have legs, right?
right, very
so
true. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I fry turkey every year for Christmas for friends of ours that we get together with for
And you
a
haven't burnt
decade
their
or
house down
more.
yet?
No, I mean, because I know what I'm fucking doing.
Hell yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to be Patreon content. I don't know if it's going to be video recorded. I should put out something at some point one of these years and telling you how to fry a turkey and how not to fry a turkey. Because you people out there on the internet act like you don't understand common sense. And I get that people that don't know just don't know. Sure.
But if you don't know, you do a little bit of research so that you do know or have a better understanding. You don't just say, I'm gonna deep fry this turkey. There's no reason I should thaw it first. I'm just gonna throw it in frozen because
I mean, that's the thing, right, Julia? I mean, back when I was like 16, 17, 18, starting to fry turkeys, there wasn't all this content out there, and you were like, I mean, a baby.
So not that much younger than you.
Oh, yeah. So there wasn't all this content out there for you to know how to do this stuff. So you had to know somebody and go somewhere to see them do it, so that you knew that you didn't do it wrong.
Right.
And then if you just heard about it and then you did it wrong, your goddamn house burnt down.
I mean, but even with the internet, people's houses still burn down. They still manage to fuck this up.
Stupid.
Oh my God! It's like they don't.
So yeah. So, but anyways, getting back to cocktails, it's sort. We didn't veer too far off from what we were originally talking about.
Traditions.
It's like I actually would love to know, and our listeners, if you have traditions that you have over the holidays that revolve around spirits, and just since I put it out there, food. Get back to us. Tell us what they are. Tell us if they're fun, interesting. If they have anything to do with the beer sphere. If they have anything to do with cocktails or wine or whatever it is you like to do.
Yeah.
Let us know what they are, because I'd love to take maybe next year as we approach the holidays and to be able to talk about some of the interesting traditions and things that have grown to our listeners surrounding their holiday events.
I love that, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd love to be able to talk about that. And I think that's sort of in 20, 25 minutes, what the Gnome was doing. I think what he was asking you to do is to maybe expand your horizon and see if any of these things fit, but also think about what you're doing and do you have some of those?
Right. Agreed. Anything else? I mean, I always feel weird about recapping episodes that I've been on. I don't like.
Well, then we're going to feel weird for 2 weeks in a row.
It is because
I'm supposed to be there Thursday.
You will be there. So when this episode releases, Marco will have been down at Schmidlap Lawn for Chris Kindle Market recording Drinking with the Gnome in the Gnome-dome.
The Gnome-dome.
Talking about winter beers. So we're not spoiling anything because this comes out after.
Yeah, we're not. We're not spoiling it.
No.
Sorry about that. That was my mushroom.
So, Marco,
Julia.
Marco, do you and your mushroom have anything else about Drinking with the Gnome?
I think we're good. I think we're ready to move on to moving on.
All right, moving on to Cincy Brewcast. Like I said, this is the Oops All Gnome episode. Yeah. This is another BBB episode. Beer releases, a Beervent, Buyouts, and more. So, keeping with the Triple B theme for things that he does for Season 8, Episode 29 of Cincy Brewcast. Gnome was in studio. It was just him and his thoughts, which, with everything that he's doing for Chris Kindle Market, for Drinking with the Gnome, all that, it's cool.
Can I also say that for those weeks where there isn't an official interview with somebody, I am perfectly happy to get these types of Cincy Brewcast. Whether it's a 15, 20 minute, 30 minute, 50 minute, 120 minute, whatever it is, I'm perfectly happy to get these. Now, I also understand that there has to be content.
Sure.
There has to be something that he should be talking about, wants to talk about, and on any given week, he may not have enough or any content that he feels that he can do on his own that would stand up on his own.
Well,
But
sometimes, like, if he does have something planned, sometimes those plans fall through. Like, that's happened multiple times in the course of Cincy Brewcast, to where, hey, on this day I'm going to have an interview, or I'm going to be talking with this person about this, and things change. Just the way that life works, sometimes
Sure.
that changes. But the fact that he still wanted to put out something, that's great, and I like the just ramblings of not ramblings. That's kind of the wrong word, because that makes it sound like there was no real.
Well, it's topical. It's topical for the week, and it's just his thoughts off of what he knows, and so
right.
I'm happy getting that content in absence of him sitting down talking with anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if it just a side note to him,
mm-hmm.
if you have something good enough to talk about, even for 20 minutes, I'm happy to get that in lieu of a larger Cincy Brewcast.
Let's just go over the 3 Bs that Gnome talked about in this episode.
Yeah.
The first B was Beervent. He cracked that day's Beervent beer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talked about Beervent. Not going to go over it because, listen to the episode, see what day he cracked. If you've been following any of, higher gravity stuff, any beer communities on Facebook, whatever, you know what every day is. We're not going to expose all of them, because it's just repeating things that have already been displayed a billion times over.
Well, it is. And the other thing is, too, if for any reason you haven't been able to enjoy and imbibe in yours, and let's say that... And
maybe you forgot to pick up your Beervent calendar somehow.
Right. Or you have it and you've been out of town, or you're planning on doing and enjoying them over the course of, let's say, a weekend. Maybe your thing is you don't touch alcohol during the week, and you're waiting till Friday to catch up for the week, or whatever it is. Like, we're not going to spoil that for you. Or
maybe you do the 25 beers of Christmas, where every hour on Christmas you have a beer.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Can
I also take a side, Julia?
Absolutely.
I would like to speak to a very small segment of the population. And I'd like to let you know that I heard what you did. You're assholes. For those who took the time to buy a higher gravity Beervent box, took the time to decide that they were going to enjoy a higher gravity Beervent box, but what they were going to do is spoil everything for everybody by, once you got it, posting every single beer for every single day on a social media platform prior to the actual day, start of Beervent. Fuck you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is... Why? Why do that? Why?
Because you're an ass.
That's true.
Because you're an ass. And you can at me.
And your mushroom's
I don't care.
Sure.
Your mushroom's tiny. You can at me. I do not care. You are the worst of the worst. And I understand the loudest 1% of beer Twitter is loud. You, my friend, are the smallest. And I say friend because I'm not going to call you what I've called you already, which is an asshole.
I mean, that's a disservice to assholes everywhere, really.
I apologize to assholes for calling this person an asshole, because that is an insult to assholes. You, who have posted all of these prior to the start of Beervent, are the reason why many of the things in the world are not the way they should be. It's because of people like you and your ilk. So fuck off.
100%. I stand strong with Marco. And for everyone that has not spoiled Beervent, thank you.
Yeah, and if you know that person that spoiled it, tell them to fuck off. Yeah. From me.
Yes. And not that I have any right to say this, but hopefully they never walk into a higher gravity location again. I have no control over any of that.
Yeah.
But I would be perfectly fine.
I don't understand what
Not
good
saying-
they thought they were doing for humankind.
Right, like, hey guys, look
All
at
they
the
were
beer.
doing was
Why?
being a fucktard.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed. All right.
Moving on.
Moving on. So the first B in this episode of Cincy Brewcast was Beervent, talking about Beervent, talking about that day's beer. He was enjoying that day's beer while he recorded the rest of the episode. The second B, beer releases.
Yeah, beer releases.
Specifically, Dark Charge Weekend, which,
Yeah.
it sounded like he was able to make it down. Did he like the new 2-day format? I know he was kind of very uncertain about it leading in, and we don't want to give away everything about the episode, so we're not going to tell you if he actually liked the format or if he didn't, but he gave some insight onto different setups that they had to kind of showcase each of the different variants. Like there was the happy cookie area, the coffee area, that type of thing. I don't know, it sounded kind of cool to me, but I wasn't able to go, so I don't know if it actually worked or not. So find out from the Gnome, did he think it worked, or does he think 2 days just takes away from what makes Dark Charge Day and not Dark Charge Weekend so special? Listen to find out. He also ranked all the variants from his favorite to, I say his least favorite. He liked them all, but
Yeah.
from his favorite to just which one wasn't his favorite, with no negative connectivity in any way, shape, or
No, there was
No.
You can think you're gonna get bulletin board material with this. You're not.
No.
It is simply love for everything.
Mm-hmm.
However, if put in front of him,
correct.
what I'm going to go to first, and then what I will have and enjoy last, and that's fair. I mean, you can love everything and still think you have a favorite.
Right. And even though he said that, he also said, if you think that my ranking is wrong, fight me. So Gnome's ready to throw
There you
a
go.
fist.
He's
if
ready to
you,
throw
if
down.
you disagree with his ranking. Also on releases, he talked a bit about kind of the time, the money, the effort, the fear of missing out aspects of it, where sometimes you just can't put your money into all of these releases. And when you have such a big release like Dark Charge Day or Dark Charge Weekend, can everyone really afford to do that anymore? Because with bigger events comes a bigger cost, and a lot of times that cost is reflected on the bottle of beer. Not that I'm saying that was the exact case with Dark Charge, because again, I don't know. I didn't buy any. As I said in a previous episode, I put my money into Family Tradition this year from Sonder.
Well, I think that's a great place for us to stop for a moment. And I know we were kind of blowing through both of our notes, and our notes are almost
absolutely
identical.
Yeah. It's crazy how alike we think.
I know it is, and that's part of how this whole thing is able to work. But I do want to stop and talk about. I think overall, I just want to say how lucky we are as a beer community to have the beer that we have available to us.
Yeah.
And the expectation when there was one outrageous beer release a year, years and years and years and years ago, back across the decades, when there was one of these most special things that you had to get. You would plan all year. You maybe had saved all year for this one thing. We're so lucky now that there's so much great beer coming out locally, as well as things that are nationally released that
we have access to. Yeah.
You've got access to, and you can pick and choose. You can pick a bottle or two from one place. You can pick a bottle or two from other places. You can decide to go all in at one place. You can decide to go all in one place for bottles and go to another place and have a flight and take part in their draft. The draft releases. I think it's the opposite of FOMO. I think what it is, and at least I would like to think of this as, it's not a fear of missing out. It's an excitement and understanding what you want to enjoy in what way. Now, would you like to have a bottle of everything from everywhere? I mean, maybe you would. Maybe you don't care about some places' releases. But if you did, that's a lofty goal. And if you can accomplish that goal, great for you. But if not, you can just prioritize. you know, and prioritize in whatever way you want and make it enjoyable for you. Don't have this feeling of fear of missing out. You maybe have friends that have the things that you didn't get, and you may be able to enjoy them with them anyway.
Right.
You know, and this community is great in that way, in being able to. There's not necessarily the line shares that there used to be for these sort of things. There's enough of this community aspect where maybe you have friends that have these things, and maybe there's a one-off day where you throw a fire together and you know, share a couple bottles, and you're able to share on some of the things that you didn't get to have or didn't get on that day. And so I look at it as the opposite of FOMO. I look at it as, you know, really being able to feel lucky and dive into what you want to dive into, and then maybe you can have the friends and connections that have those. I mean, and I would network that way personally if these were the things that I like to have. I mean, I have a very core group of friends, and you know, they have, and I know some of you, I know what you're thinking. I know you're calling bullshit, like Marco doesn't have friends, and I get it. That's fair. But for these people that I know that like me enough, they can split their interests, and you can do Sonder, you can do Bourbon County, you can do, you know, some of the other releases around town, and then, you know, you can have points throughout the year where you get together and enjoy some of these things with each other. And so I would say instead of feeling in this holiday season like you missed out on something, look at it a different way, and try to maybe think of the ways that we're lucky and you got to enjoy what you did, and maybe think about leaning on some of your friends and maybe even family, and get to enjoy some of the things that maybe you didn't get to enjoy over that particular release weekend, whatever it may be.
Well, and even to take it a slight step beyond that, if the quantities of these releases were enough that everybody could get everything, like to where on release day things didn't sell out. If you could get them for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month after the release date, it doesn't make it special anymore. I mean, there are some things that it's like looking back on it, like I'm still going, man, I really wish that I would have bought a bottle of the barley wine, the family tradition barley wine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because that was delicious, but at the same time, because of that, it makes it that much more special for me that it was still on draft when we went up there, and that I did get to try it. I didn't get to bring a bottle home, but I still had the opportunity to try it. But even if I didn't have that opportunity, again, it just makes the event, the release, the whole aspect of those events that much more special, because you can't experience all of them. And for some people, they hate that. It's FOMO. It's, oh God, this is the worst day of my life because I wasn't able to get, a full allotment of X, Y, and Z. But, I mean, it's all mindset.
And I appreciate that they care that much. I'm not in any way going to judge anybody for the way that they care about, what they're passionate about, right? Like,
Sure.
Some people care about, getting this Lego figure that they have been chasing after for a long time, and that's because that's important to them. I mean, I'm not gonna cast judgment off of what you do or don't feel.
As long as you're not trying to get a full
own
allotment just to resell it like an asshole.
Correct.
Yes.
I
will add that.
A theme here. Don't be an asshole.
Sharing it with people is one thing. Picking up an allotment for someone else because they can't make it, that's another thing. If you're going to these places and trying to buy as much as you can for the sole purpose of reselling it at a premium,
asshole.
Come on.
Asshole.
There's a difference between, and I don't want to use the term muling necessarily, but saying, hey, I know someone from out of town, out of state, whatever, that can't get here for it. I said I'd buy him a bottle. They're going to give me a couple of extra bucks for being there to pick it. That's totally different. Totally different than what I'm talking about, which is taking advantage of the situation.
And sharing our beer with people from outside the community. I mean, I support that.
Great. Absolutely.
I definitely support that. I mean, what you do and how you do it on your own time is your thing. I would just, I would just hope that the passion for the craft beer and
to
and
share
all
it and
that.
not just to make an extra couple bucks off of it.
Yeah,
I want
I
you
mean-
to share with people that you know are going to have the same.
Yeah, I
passion
don't.
for it that
I don't
do,
want you
that
to
we
be
do.
in the whole. However you get beers to whoever you want to get them to, but on the same hand, I also I don't love the idea of profiting 2-3 times fold off of something that. Anyways, different conversation.
Before we have this recap be longer than the actual episode, do you want to go over the third B?
The burp
Buyouts?
count?
We don't have a burp count this.
Mother.
I know.
I need a minute.
Okay. Are you okay now, Marco? Are you good? You had to take a break. You had to walk away after the fairly heated discussion we got into about fear of missing out, which kind of I feel like ties into the Beervent part of the beginning of this episode.
I just had to use the restroom. Did I
Oh,
crescendo
you went.
to like being pissed off and
Yeah,
like
you said
I
you-
gotta go?
You
well,
said you needed a minute, and so
I
we
needed.
took.
Yeah, I needed. I just
We
needed
took a
to pee.
whole bunch of minutes that are going to be, by the
We
power
did.
of editing, disappear.
We
magically.
did, but I mean, stuff happened, and
yes,
it was cool.
yes.
I mean,
Oh,
and-
absolutely,
and you know that's how it goes. Also, great to have producer Annie back.
Oh,
Holy
yes.
shit!
It is so wonderful to
So
have her back.
wonderful to have producer Annie back, and producer Annie back in a different capacity that producer Annie
Yes.
has ever been. Actually, since I've ever known producer Annie, so
We can share alcoholic beverages with her
yeah,
now.
she can taste
Awesome.
things with us and
Yes,
all that. I
yes.
mean, and so that's awesome too, and it's just wonderful.
Yes.
Also great to see Jason have a quick appearance. But anyways,
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and finish up the last little segment of Cincy Brewcast because
do it.
this episode is turning into longer than both episodes combined, as we do.
we do. And that's what we do.
Buyouts.
Yeah, buyouts.
Big news. Cartridge Brewing was bought out by Saucy Brewworks from up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
No idea how that's going to change things, if at all. Maybe it's just going to facilitate better distribution for Cartridge. Who knows? I mean, this happened exactly Thursday, Friday, like 5 days ago. Just random posts on the internet. Hey, it's Saucy Brewworks. Just wanted to let you know we bought Cartridge Brewing, and
Yeah.
all right. So hopefully, everyone that works at Cartridge, continues to work at Cartridge. Saucy is still, to me, they're a bigger craft brewery than Cartridge is,
Yeah.
but they're still craft. They're still not like this huge, national. Or I don't want to say national.
Sure.
They're not big beer. They're not an AB InBev or anything like that.
No.
So I think that this still will keep Cartridge craft. Have you ever had any Saucy Brewworks beer?
I was going to ask you the same question. The truth is, I have not.
I've had a couple of their beers. It's been a while. I don't
Hey.
remember the last time that I saw them, so I don't know if they're just not distributing in the area anymore. Maybe that'll change with the acquisition of Cartridge. I have no idea. When Josh and I went up to Cleveland a couple years ago, Saucy was one of the breweries that we thought about going to, but we had incredibly limited time. We went up there for my work and just didn't have time to make it out there. But the beers that we had were good from them that we got in distribution here in Cincinnati a while back. Nothing overly spectacular, but we enjoyed what we had. So I'm hoping that this is a positive acquisition, a positive move for Cartridge. Again, don't know all the back details on the why, the what, the how, was it the plan all along to open a brewery and then to sell it to a bigger player? Was this something that with COVID there were financial issues and maybe this is how they were able to stay up? No idea. I'm just purely speculating there. But a craft brewery buying another craft brewery, we'll just have to see how the dice falls, as it may. I don't know. There's really not a lot to say about Saucy buying Cartridge yet because no one knows yet how that may or may not change things.
No, we don't.
But again,
we don't know, and
Yeah.
and
I don't want to speculate. I don't know
I'm
much
not
about
going to
Saucy.
speculate, but I do. If they were wanting to sell and change ownership, I'm glad that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they have a place that is from Ohio
Right.
that has purchased them.
Cleveland.
And
I don't know about Cleveland, but it could be okay. Could be okay.
We'll see. But
I mean, if it helps Cartridge as a brand,
For
if
sure.
it helps them grow,
Exactly.
I mean, maybe it's the best move. And while we always love to see our locally owned breweries stay locally owned, if this keeps, again, the people working there employed, and if it helps Cartridge get out to more places, I mean, maybe this is the best thing that could happen. To be determined, but I am making no judgments at all. Like we talked a few minutes earlier, I've had Saucy Brewing beers before, so the beers that Saucy makes are fine. I have no concern about quality of Cartridge's beer, changing at all because of that. I don't know really much about the company as a whole, but I don't know. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping for the best that this acquisition, buyout, however you want to word it.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hoping for the best as well.
Yeah. That's all that I had for this episode of I'm Gonna Do It, of the Cincinnati Brewcast.
Let's go, Julia.
Cheers.
Drink. Cheers.
Was there anything else that you had to wrap up this episode? I mean, again, we only had
No,
two
that's
episodes that made our cutoff, so
that's my notes. So
they match my notes exactly.
perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much for once again coming across. I'm starting that over. Thank you again for coming along on this journey with us as we recap local Cincinnati craft beer podcasts. If you would like to support us in what we do, you can like, subscribe, review, share, follow, all of that good stuff. We are at Truth Beer Pod everywhere, and that includes at Truth Beer Pod on YouTube. We put all our episodes out there, and that includes at Truth Beer Pod or just Truth Beer Pod on Patreon. If you want to throw us a couple bucks on a monthly basis, that's where you can find us and where you can find some exclusive content. If you just want to throw a couple bucks our way on a one-time basis, that's perfectly fine. truthbeerpod.com. That's where you have a nice buy us a pint link, as well as the links to all of our social media, YouTube, Patreon, everything else. If you want to send us an email, let us know about your traditions, how they have to do with drinking, food, anything. truthbeerpod@gmail.com. Pretty much anything that you put Truth Beer Pod in front of or behind, it's more than likely us. So go for it, unless you want to complain about our show. Those go to @RagingHop on Twitter. We haven't heard that we've gotten any since the last time that we covered those, so I guess we're doing an okay job. Other than that, though, Marco, what in the hell are you going to be doing next Tuesday?
I am going to, with all of God's graces, be here at Higher Gravity, recapping Cincinnati Craft Beer Podcast with you, Julia.
Let's do it. I'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Have a good one, guys.